Hello everyone and welcome back to another Year 5 and 6 English tutorial. Today is Friday and it is another writing challenge day, and for this week we're going to be taking our inspiration from this book, Who Let the Gods Out by Maz Evans. Now I know lots of you have read this book already and you'll be familiar with what it's about, but for those of you who are not, I'm going to read you the blurb from the back. It's a very short one to give you a little flavour of what this book is about. So it says, when Elliot wished upon a star, he didn't expect a constellation to crash into his dung heap. Virgo thinks she's perfect. Elliot doesn't. Together they release Thanatos, evil demon of death. Epic fail. They need the king of gods and his noble steed, but they get a chubby Zeus and his high horse Pegasus. Are the gods really ready to save the world? And is the world really ready for the gods? Okay, so that's all it is on the blurb on the back, and it's all about this boy who releases the gods, releases an evil demon, and the story revolves around that whole idea. So to warm us up for our writing challenge today, we're going to do a few quick challenges, and to help us with that, we're going to use the first sentence from this book, and that sentence is this: it began on a Friday, as strange things often do. Now, as we've done on each of our other writing tasks, what I would like you to do first of all is extend this sentence by removing the full stop, placing in the comma on these first ones, and then adding in a but, an and, a so, an although, a because, and a while, which are some new ones, these two, although and while. We haven't done those ones before. And then the last one, we're not going to do a colon this week. We're just going to see if you can change the full stop for a semicolon and add a related sentence afterwards. Okay, now some of you be ready to just give that a go to warm yourselves up. If you're not sure what to put, then you can have a look at what I've got under here before you have a go yourself. So if you're ready, pause the video and have a go yourself. If you're not, then watch on. I'm about to reveal what I have got for mine. So if I peel this away, I have gone for this. So it began on Friday, strange things often do, but nothing could prepare him for how the day would end. Okay, so I've told you when it began, and then I've used my but for my contrast, and then I'm talking about how the day would end. Okay, on my sentence with and, I said it began on a Friday, as strange things often do, comma, and it took the whole weekend to put it right. So I'm adding some additional information there. It began on a Friday, as strange things often do, so he had no choice but to bunk off school. Okay, don't even think about it. So it began on a Friday, as strange things often do, so he had no choice but to bunk off school. So this happened, which caused this result. Okay, it began on a Friday, as strange things often do, comma, although Elliot didn't even realise it was happening at first. So again, it's another contrast, a bit like but this time it's a subordinating conjunction. So I've said it began on a Friday, as strange things often do, although Elliot didn't even realise it was happening. Okay, then we've got our because, and I've said it began on a Friday, as strange things often do, because that's the day he walks to school alone. So why did this thing happen? I've said, or why do the strange things always happen on a Friday? And I've said because that's the day he walks to school alone. We've got a while here, so this happened while what else was happening? It began on a Friday, as strange things often do, while Elliot was scoffing the last of his cereal, or the cereal. Okay, and then my last one, which is my semicolon one, and remember my semicolon can act a little bit like a but, an and, or a so. It acts a little bit like a coordinating conjunction. And so I said it began on a Friday, as strange things often do, semicolon. It ended on a Sunday, just in time for school. So I've linked when it began to when it ended, and they're quite closely related sentence ideas, so they can be joined together with a semicolon. Okay, so if you haven't had a go at doing those already, then have a go. If you've just had a go, then just check that yours is along a similar line. It can be a completely different ending to the sentence, but that grammatically you've got the right idea. And then let's have a look at our second lot of challenges. So, right, peel this away. We're on to challenge set number 2. So we're stepping up a gear. now. So we have moved on to the second sentence in the book now. So we had the idea about it started on a Friday, strange things often do. And the second sentence says, this particular Friday turned out to be stranger than most. Okay, and what I'd like you to do, these are the two challenges that I'm going to set you to have a go at. I am sorry for the crumpled paper. I know it might be making it difficult to read, but it's the last of the paper I've got at the moment. So it says, add a colon. So we'd like you to add a colon at the end here. Add a colon and write a list of strange things that had happened before. So this particular Friday turned out to be stranger than most. We know that strange things have happened to him before because he said that in the first sentence. So I would like you to add a colon and then say some of the strange things that had happened in the past, okay? And you might need to use semicolons to separate your list of things, okay? And then the second challenge says, add a subordinate clause beginning with although, and you can add that at the beginning or at the end of the sentence, wherever you are most happy to do it. So if you are ready to get those challenges a go, have a go. Pause the video and have a go now. If you'd rather see my examples first, then keep the video going and then you can pause it once I've shown you what my versions were. So let's have a look at what I've got underneath on these two. I'm going to take them both off so that we can see. So let's look at this one first of all. So this particular Friday turned out to be stranger than most, colon. Stranger than the day Mr. Graham tried to hug him. Mr. Graham is the head teacher in the book. Stranger than the day he caught his dog flushing the loo, semicolon. And stranger even than the day his parents were abducted by aliens. Okay, so hopefully you'll notice that I've used the same repeated opener on my list. Stranger than, and stranger even than. Okay, and hopefully you'll notice that the events got weirder as they went on. So one of your teachers trying to give you a bit of a hug, moving on to your dog flushing the loo, moving on to his parents being abducted by aliens. So my list has got progressively more strange as it's gone on. So you'll hopefully notice as well the semicolons between the items in our list. And remember, for your last item, you need a semicolon and an and. Okay, you may have just used commas and that is fine. If you use commas, make sure that you didn't have an and after your last, you didn't have a comma, sorry, before your last and. And then we've got this last one. We said add a subordinate clause beginning with although. I put mine at the beginning of my sentence. So I said, although it had started normally enough, this particular Friday turned out to be stranger than most. Okay, so although it had started normally, it turned out very strange. So we've got that contrast there, which is what the word although is all about. Because my subordinate clause is at the beginning, I needed to make sure that I put a comma after it to help it join on to the main clause. If yours was at the end, so if I'd moved that to the end, I'd need this to obviously be a capital letter. And it would say, this particular Friday turned out to be stranger than most, although it had started normally enough. And that wouldn't have a comma to join those bits together. Okay, so if you haven't already had a go at writing your own, then pause the video and have a go at that now. But for those of you that have had a go already, let's think about what our writing challenge for today actually is going to be. So I'm going to take this off now. Okay, so what I want you to do today is I would like you to write the story Who Let the Gods Out. Okay, so we know that it all started on a Friday, as strange things often do, and we know that this Friday turned out to be stranger than most. Okay, but what I want you to do is at least write the first chapter for me and to tell me what was so strange about this day. What happened to Elliot, what went wrong, and what made this day very strange indeed. Bearing in mind that the title of the book is Who Let the Gods Out, and we know that there was the king of the gods, Zeus, was involved. So we are talking about the Greek gods. So we're delving into that knowledge that you would have got back in year 3 and 4 on that topic. Okay, so as always, I have written my own very short first bit to get you started, to give you some ideas. Feel free to read it, to magpie bits from it for your own. Feel free to completely ignore it and take the writing on your own journey. Okay, but what I have tried to do is to demonstrate some of the skills that you might like to try and use in your writing today. So I'm going to read it for you first of all, and then I'll point out some of the skills for you. So it says, it began on a Friday as strange things often do, semicolon. Fortunately, or unfortunately as Elliot saw it, it had all ended by Sunday just in time for school. Anyway, this particular Friday turned out to be stranger than most. Stranger than the day Mr. Graham had tried to hug him, stranger than the day he caught his dog flushing the loo, and stranger even than the day his parents were abducted by aliens. You see, Elliot Hooper was quite used to strange goings-on. Whenever he went, wherever he went, however hard he tried, they just seemed to hunt him out and turn his life upside down. It had all started normally enough. Elliot had snoozed his alarm 5 times as normal. He turned the 5-minute walk to school into half an hour dawdle as normal. He'd even been barked at by Mr. Graham for strolling in 20 minutes late, which was actually 10 minutes earlier than normal. The first abnormal event of the day had come when he'd found Michael Woods sitting in his normal seat in history. The only seat free was under Mr. Hardwood's pointy nose. Okay, so I've taken it to the point where he's now at school. He's in his history class, which for mine, in my story, is going to be where things start to go strange. He's going to say something under his breath while they're learning about these Greek gods, which is going to release them and bring them into the world. So let me just show you some of the skills that I have demonstrated in my writing. So we'll start off with the first one that comes, which is the semicolon to link to related sentences. So they can link together because I told you when it began and I've told you when it ended. So they are related to each other, so I can use the semicolon to link them. And I've done another one here where it said about him being used to strange things happening. Why was he used to it? Because they used to seek him out and they used to find him. So I've linked those 2 sentences. Here in green, I've underlined, in the light green, I've underlined where I've used some brackets for asides for little bits of gossip, and we're going to be looking at how to use those properly in another tutorial later on, I think next week or the week after. So here I said fortunately, or unfortunately as Elliot saw it. So it's a little gossip between the author, the narrator, and the reader. And I've done another one down here. So strolling in 20 minutes late, which was actually 10 minutes earlier than normal. So again, it's like a little bit of gossip between the narrator and the reader. Okay, then up here, I've got got a very formal name. They're called informal discourse markers, which basically means those things that we say lots when we're talking or when we're writing, that introduce the next thing we're saying. So lots of us will be used to saying things like, I know that probably you've spotted in these tutorials that I say okay a lot at the beginning of my sentences. So they're things that we add at the beginning. They don't mean anything, they just introduce the next bit. So because I'm going with a bit more of an informal, chatty style to my writing, I've added some of these like anyway, and here I've done you see. So they're those informal things that can go at the beginning of our sentences, things like right, actually. Okay, so they are called informal discourse markers, but they're just to show that informal, chatty style that I'm going with. I've tried to use a colon to introduce a list, as that's a skill that we have done in one of our tutorials. I've got repetition for effect, and I've got, again, some repetition for effect down there. And then the last things that I want to show you is here where I've used a semicolon in a list, and here where I've used some subordinate clauses followed by commas at the beginning of my sentences. So I think for some of you, this could be an amazing creative piece of writing. So hopefully this will give you a starter if you need it. But take your writing and make this day as strange and wacky as possible in your writing. And as always, if you do take part in the writing challenge, take a picture of what you do, or type it on a laptop, and feel free to email it to the school office at Timberwood office, and they will make sure that it gets to me so that I can see some of your wonderful examples of your work. But thank you very much for watching. Good luck with your writing, and I will see you on the next lot of tutorials next week.